Welcome, everyone, to the Tethys Shipyards. I am Takeshi Yamato, the Yardmaster, joining our host, the Housecoat Gamer.
Yo.
Today, we cover the icon, the glory of the Empire, its greatest symbol, the first ship first associated with Klingons.
Yes.
The D7.
She almost needs no introduction. Almost.
Yeah.
STD really tried to screw this one up. And Strange New Worlds compacted the problem, so guess what our job is?
Yeah. Now, as we did, this is stated in the book, so we are going to do as we normally do. I'm going to read the book lore, and then Ron is going to provide commentary and then basically give our lore as modifications. So,
Bring us about.
overview.
Have arrived.
The mid-23rd century saw increasing competition between the Empire and the Federation for space supremacy across our shared border region. The KDF had been relying on refitted D5 cruisers nearly 100 years old and still capable of expanding the far-flung borders of the Empire, but the introduction by Starfleet of the Constitution-class heavy cruiser in 2243 laid bare the Empire's reliance on these ancient vessels. A long-term development plan was set into motion by the High Council and overseen by General Koro to develop a suitable weapons platform to challenge Starfleet in power and in deep space deployments.
Yes.
The final design of the D7 occurred in 2247, but when the Empire was able to capture a functional duotronic computer system from a Starfleet vessel, further installation of the sensor and data networks in the D7 was halted until the duotronic systems were reverse engineered in 2250. The first D7 launched a great celebration only 2 months later. The D7 Battlecruiser became the most visible symbol of the Empire, and squadrons of the vessels would attack and harass Federation outposts and illegal colonies regularly. Even then, this system of strength and power almost fell away when a brief alliance with the Romulan Empire allowed the KDF access to cloaking devices. The then current D7 space frame couldn't accommodate the cloak, and the High Council began liquidating the D7 fleet in trade to the Romulans for more cloaking devices that would be installed in a new generation of vessels. A brilliant scientist named Katinga discovered that the cloak the Romulans were providing was faulty, and with some modification could be used in vessels as large as the D7, as long as the outer hull plating was manufactured in a new fashion. The alliance ended when Katinga himself stabbed the cowardly Romulan ambassador through his heart. While dozens of D7s had been traded away, a new design of the D7 was born, the Katinga-Class. The first production run having green-tinted plating to represent the blood of the traitorous Romulan Petak. The new battlecruiser design came into service in 2270 and would continue to serve the KDF as its frontline starship until the mid-24th century, when the introduction of larger vessels such as the Vorcha and Negvar class vessels relegated the venerable design to escort and support duty.
Reinforcements have arrived.
Capabilities. The D7 continues the long design traditions of the KDF by having a command pod at the end of a long detachable boom that connects to the engineering hull. With the primary purpose of the D7 being war, the weapon systems on board had top priority for the use of internal volume. 2 separate photon torpedo launchers provide the primary destructive capabilities of the space frame. The D7 was also equipped with both phaser banks and disruptor cannons. The interior volume of the battlecruiser was a departure from the more traditional designs in the KDF, as the corridors and maintenance areas had an openness and ease of access to critical systems in mind.
Reinforcements have arrived.
While most warriors have little understanding or care for maintenance of critical systems, the D7 had easy-to-understand instructions on the inside of bulkheads to show how systems may be repaired or maintained, even for crew members of select worlds who may not yet understand Klingon. Refits for the D7 and Katinga depended greatly on if it was in service of the KDF to the KDF or a great house.
Reinforcements have arrived.
While the with the KDF focusing on improving warp capabilities and increasing EPS connections to weapon systems, and some great houses focusing on improving the vessel's ability to act as a command ship in ways similar to Kronos 1. Okay, before Ron gets into our adjustments, I'm going to mention one thing. Klingons do not use phasers!
Yes,
Or small...
because the book says they use them.
Yeah.
Who
Reinforcements have
wrote
arrived.
this?
Our
I don't
planet is
know,
under attack.
but we're swapping that out for disruptors.
Let's fix this.
Yes. You're up, Ron. Go for it.
While the majority of Take's speech is not entirely wrong, the ship was introduced a few months after the introduction of the Constitution-Class, unwittingly giving the Klingon Empire a near-peer counterpart to the Constitution. That said, the D7 was always somewhat lesser in capacity to the Constitution, as most encounters between D7s and Constitutions ended up with the D7 getting its ass kicked. The introduction of new duotronic computer systems did lessen the problem, not so insignificantly, mostly because it was the computers that did most of the work for Federation starships, but the D7 never really got off the ground. The
Reinforcements
first
have
model
arrived.
to utilize duotronic computers was the
detected an
D7A, with
anomaly.
the original D7 being, well, the original model.
Yeah.
A few minor retrofits to the design created a new modification with superior shielding and additional weapons banks, the D7B. This model would become the new production model for the next 20 years. Right up until it was refit, at last, into the D7C, more famously known as the Katinga class.
Yes, and I honestly do believe that the lore from the book works very well on modifications to use the cloaking device.
That said, the Klingon-Romulan alliance did last a hell of a lot longer than in the book. It only ended in the 2290s, shortly after the Ormang, where the House of Geok tried to take control of the Empire.
Yeah.
That said, when the Romulans tried taking control of the Empire, they weren't exactly happy.
Yeah.
So the Romulan giving the faulty cloaking devices getting stabbed in the face, that wouldn't defend the Romulans so much, for one simple reason. They needed the Klingons fighting the Federation.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, there's only one way you're beating the United Federation of Planets. You either have so much starships and so many men that Starfleet will just be overwhelmed, or it's a war on two fronts.
Yeah.
On my way.
And so, yeah.
battle
Anyway.
has begun.
Let's do our stats.
So be it.
So, we're
Reinforcements have
counting
arrived.
the D7 and the Katinga as two separate classes,
Reinforcements have
basically,
arrived.
with two separate documents. And links to both will be provided in the description.
Portas.
The D7 will use the base stat line as shown in the book with one modification. The descriptor traits for a Klingon starship, long-serving 24th century. I can put that in on the Katinga because, yeah. But the Katinga basically gets a lot of the stuff that the D7 that counts for the D7 going past the 2270s. The book gives it Comm 7, Computer 7, Engines 8, Sensor 7, Structure 8, Weapons 9. Department modifiers are 1 point in Con and 2 points in Security. It's Scale 4. It has Disruptor Cannons, Phaser Barracks, Photon Torpedoes, a Strength 3 Tractor Beam. Yeah.
Lasers.
Yeah, a cloaking device after 2272, and rugged design. So, I've basically taken that stat block, and I've done the following modifications. 2250 launch date gives 45 points. The stat total they had was 46. So I'm dropping 1 point from computers for that. So, to get it down into the line. Comm 7, Computer 6, Engines 8, Sensor 7, Structure 8, Weapons 9. Department modifiers are just fine. For weapons, I have changed Phaser Banks into Disruptor Banks. And I've gotten rid of the cloaking device. Because the cloaking device is going into... and I've gotten rid of the long-serving 24th century trait.
No one lives
Because those two are going into... Those two traits are going into the Katinga. Long-serving... 24th century. So, for the Katinga, I added that point back into computers, and with a launch year of 2270, we need one more point to get up to 47. So, I've added that into engines. Department modifiers are the same, weapons are the same, and I've added the cloaking device into talents. It's still a Scale 4 starship. And yeah, this thing did last into the 24th century. With heavy refit programs.
A battle has begun. We have detected an anomaly. Move.
So, that is basically the D7 in its entirety with the Katinga.
I do believe our next one covers something a little higher up on the food chain.
Yes, though one other thing to bring up. You might be asking, what happened to the D6?
Reinforcements have arrived.
You can use the baseline D7 to potentially represent a D6 as well,
Our planet
since
is
they're
under
basically
attack.
the same ship. At least the same design. You might need to take away a few systems points to represent an earlier launch year, but, well,
Much glory awaits you.
that's
Battle
fine.
has begun.
Doesn't really matter very much, does it?
will be paid
Yeah.
with their ashes.
They're effectively the same. boat. One just probably has
A
crappier
Klingon can
computers.
die but once.
Yeah.
Ma'am.
So, next up we cover a more advanced battlecruiser.
A battle has begun.
Or maybe just something bigger.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.